Good evening and welcome to Global Harmony House on our Thursday night, a week after you celebrated a wonderful, glorious Independence Day, I hope. And I hope you still have enthusiasm for everything that you do and everything that you are, because hoping that that energy and that enthusiasm will be the basis of the inspiration for our speaker tonight. He's going to tell us where we live and maybe how to get home. We'll see exactly what it is that comes out. But many of you have heard and seen our brother Tony before. How many are here for the first time on a Thursday night? If anyone, good. Good. So they recognize you, you recognize them. My name is Eric. I am the understudy for our Masters of Ceremonies. They are busy and away, and so our typical hosts are not here. And so I will try to encourage you to enjoy yourself and feel the vibrations of bliss while you listen to Brother Tony. And I will also share a little personal experience. When I come into the hall, there's the reception area. It's like, okay, this is fine. And then I come through those doors and there's kind of this dark visor in front of me. But when I take a couple steps and I come out from under the balcony, the whole hall opens up and it's a great feeling. And so I'd like to share that feeling with those who might feel that there's a balcony visor over their heads. You will have to choose to move on your own, but you are quite welcome. There are some good seats still available in front. You don't have to sit on one of the benches or pews all by yourself. It's big enough to share. So a subtle invitation to come forward to those who would like. So, and I would like someone to come forward and join us, whether he likes to or not. And so, Brother Tony, would you join us on stage? Get yourself settled and take a pause while I do double duty and go back upstairs. Thank you for coming. Insight, Brother Tony. Hold on. Move the microphone. Can you hear me? Yes.
Let's see if it's working. Yes, it's working now. Well, good evening. Glad to see you all. It's one of my favorite times of the month when I come here and kind of share some of these thoughts. Today, we're talking about reclaiming our spiritual independence, and there was a part of the meditation that talked about spiritual energy, which was kind of a nice segue into this topic. And my take on this is to get to some place where you're reclaiming the spiritual energy, you need to know where you are. You need to know where you're starting from. These terms are very esoteric, but you need to have some pragmatic way of dealing with this whole process. So what do we spend our energies on? Our everyday life. There are a lot of routines demand our attention. Some are small and significant, some are large and complicated, others are routine and monotonous. And we really have to address all these things in order to get through the day. It's part of our daily life. This is how we live. And this is really the crux of the matter, is what kind of energy do you invest in the things that you do every day versus what kind of energy do you invest in the things that are special and unique and transcendent. So I think it requires that we kind of lay out specifically what are the issues that consume spiritual energy. So we're talking about things like going every day to a job that may be boring or worse, calling a friend or relative on a regular basis, and they need our attention and they're difficult to deal with. Dealing with social responsibilities associated with family or work that are sometimes challenging, not enjoyable. Having to take your time to deal with someone that asks for help for something they should know better than to do. Being in a challenging relationship. These are the things that make up a lot of our daily life. All of us have to deal with this at some point or another. The question is, we're not defined by these things. What we're really defined by is how and what kind of energy we invest in these things that are the daily, quotidian qualities of our life. They have to be done. You have to eat, you have to deal with all the situations. But what is our attitude? What is our disposition towards all of these things? What kind of energy do we invest in it? And this is where I think, for me, the critical aspect of this topic lies, is that we have a lot of different kinds of energies that we use. You have physical energy, you have emotional energy. And then you have spiritual energy. I looked up spiritual energy and I realized that psychic energy, psyche, which is a psychological the term about describing people's persona, is a Greek word that means soul, that means spirit. That's where the psyche, the term, comes from. It's an ancient Greek word that talks about soul. Although now in psychology has made it into something a little different, some compendium of different qualities. But how do we invest the energy in dealing with our everyday existence? And that is what defines us. Not that we have demands on our life, because everybody has demands on their life. Unless you are an extraordinarily fortunate person, you have to deal with all of these things. It's impossible not to. I have to tell this story. Maybe it's part of expiation. My former wife, I remember, I hate shopping. I really hate shopping with a real passion. And I remember one day she needed a wardrobe. She had to go buy a bunch of things. She was not into shopping at all herself. She was so we had to buy stuff. So I spent better part of the day, went to 3 stores, and she was petite, so it was difficult to get stuff. So it was a real effort. Patiently went to all the stores, looked at every single piece, selected them all, bought the entire wardrobe. And I felt such a sense of accomplishment. I went through this, something I really hated to do, but was necessary to be done. And then in the next 3 weeks, unbeknownst to me, I found out later on, she went back and she returned every single piece she bought. Every single one. Not one was left. I only found out as I was asking her about. So, if you let these kinds of things define you, it gets to be a very frustrating life. You consume that psychic, spiritual energy. That is what you need to think about in terms of breaking, reclaiming the spiritual independence, breaking free. So what happens is that we create a kind of a cage. I have to do this today. I have to deal with this person, which you have to do, obviously. But then you invest in it, not just emotional, not just physical, but you invest your spiritual, your psychic energy. This is terrible. Why am I doing this? Why do I have to do this? Now you have to do it, unless you're going to become a hermit and completely cut yourself from the rest of the world. But what you do is you invest in this, a lot of the psychic, spiritual energy that you need to really do transcendent things, to do something that's special, that's unique, to make you happy. So one by one, each of these routines, we create this cage, okay? And that becomes the definition of your life. And after a while, you have no more energy left for anything. Your psychic, your spiritual energy is being consumed constantly by this myriad of things that you do all the time, that you're constantly having to deal with. And that really is a kind of a prison that you create for yourself, a cage. I mean, I use prison, a cage, but you create it for yourself because we look at all these things that we do all the time. And if we do something like say, I can't accept this person's behavior or this person's attitude, that's a term that puts you into a real bind because that person is what they are and they did what they did, right? And they are what they are. Now you have a choice. You can go away from them, but that's not a choice we have most of the time. A relative, a friend, you can't just say, okay, I can't handle this. So you can't say I don't accept this. That's a term that's, to me, that's one of the most debilitating terms that we can use. I can't accept this. What do you mean you can't accept this? It's happened. It's not a question of accepting. What are you accepting? It's happened. It's already done. You have to accept what there is. Accept it because it happened, because it is. It's not your role. It's not in your role in this life to determine if it's acceptable or not. It is what it is. And if you spend all your energy saying, I can't deal with this, I can't accept this, then that psychic energy, because the physical energy and the emotional energy we already know about, we do that all the time. We get upset, we get angry, we feel better, that's life. But we're talking about what transcends life, transcendent, psychic, spiritual. So if we take all of our energies and invest it in these little items that begin to compose a whole big chessboard of pawns that keeps us from moving, then when it comes time for you to do something really significant, okay, where does that energy come from? You already invested in the things that by your own assessment, by your own consideration, really have no value for you. They're things you have to do. But you invest value in them by saying things, I can't accept it, by being very concerned or very upset about the fact that you have to do them. So they have been invested with value on your part. You have taken your precious qualities and you've invested in these negative things, these negative qualities that you have to deal with. That's not the place where you want to invest your energies. It's a question of what do we focus our life on? The spiritual transcendent qualities. Do we focus on the things that we don't want, or we focus on the things that we want? This is one of these typical cliche things. There are two kinds of people in the world. those that spend their energy and time on what they don't want, and those that spend their energy and time on what they want. Like all cliches, it has some basis in truth. But if you look at the lives of very successful people in particular fields, like, very successful business people like, Jeff Bezos and other people of that type. What is the quality that you see in all these people, and Steve Jobs and guy from Microsoft, having a senior moment, I forgot his name, Bill Gates. They spend their life, at least a significant portion of their life, on what they want. And what they don't want doesn't get any energy. It happens, they deal with it, but they spend their energy, they spend their time, the greatest investment is on what they want. That's really important because we spend a lot of time putting energy on what we don't want. Now, it doesn't mean there are things we don't want that we have to deal with. We're not hermits. We're not sannyasis going out into the caves and the forests and not coming out until the sun shines. That's not a path that we have right now. So this division of values, I think, is very important. Now, not everybody obviously can do this so cleanly. We have clean division between what you want and what you don't want. There's always a variation. There are things we don't want, we have best energy, and there are things that we want. But when you look at your life and you're saying, I'm investing all my energy in things I don't want, meanwhile, what I want is over there, and I'm doing nothing about it. I'm not having any kind of action or doing anything or thinking about it, but I know it's something that I want. So that, I think, is one of the critical things of creating a spiritual cage for ourselves, where we kind of surround ourselves with these things. And then, what does spiritual energy, what does it really accomplish? It's basically the thing that we use to be happy, to be content, to love, to admire, to appreciate, to be grateful, to have compassion, to have understanding, to achieve something new. That's what spiritual energy is supposed to be for. That's what your inspiration, that's what the transcendent quality of your existence is supposed to be engaged in. How much of your energy is engaged in that versus dealing with somebody who's telling you something for the 15th time about what they did that they shouldn't have done, and how the fact they keep doing it. I mean, how much of your energy is invested in that versus the things that you really want to do that make you feel better about yourself, more accomplished, happier, more content. So these are the things that require the energy that you have, the spiritual energy. This is where, and the thing about that is that the key, in my estimation, for breaking out of that prison that we create, that prison that I used to work at corrections department, so this term comes up easy. So that cage, breaking out of that cage has to do with the issue of acceptance. As I was doing this and I was thinking about it, I say, what is this? So how do people break out? You can't say, okay, we're going to go to do great things and not focus on the little things. But the key for me is acceptance. You have to accept things as they are and not say, no, they can't be that way. They are that way. You don't have to be that way, but things are what they are. Things are what they're manifest. Now you can do something about these things. You have the capability and you have skills and the power to be able to do something about it, but not if you're focused on how bad they are. Then you have no energy to do anything constructive, to help anybody, to help yourself. I mean, this is how your energy is consumed. And that to me is really the real focus that we need to kind of break out of the routines that take us to either a very bad place or take us to a place that provides us with no joy, no contentment. The term psyche comes from the Greek, and there's a Greek myth, Cupid and Psyche. So even in the ancient Greek myth, psyche and love were associated. Psyche, the spirit, the soul, and love were linked together in the Greek mythology because that is where love comes from. Love comes from the spiritual energy. It comes from your transcendent psychic energy. Love for yourself, love for others, love for what you do. That's where it comes from. And that's what you need to have invest that energy in. And I think you have to think about, okay, what is it that I want? What do I want to do? What is going to not even get to the point of saying and making less, what's going to make me happy? No, just what do I want to do? So we don't get into the definitions of what's happy and what's, content, What do you want to do? Of course, in this context, we always have a underlying qualification. You don't want to give anybody sorrow, and you don't want to take sorrow. That's one of the basic tenets of the disciplines that we promote. So, wanting to get even with someone and hurt them, it's not what we think is going to be a spiritual endeavor, although some people may justify it to themselves that way. So what do you want? So let's not even get into what makes you happy. What is it that you want? And you already know what you don't want. It's already, most of us are very clear. We have all kinds of things we don't want. So let's focus on what we want. Where is it that we want to be? That to me is really where you really need to kind of position yourself to break free and reclaim kind of the spiritual independence that we're all basically born with. We all have that. And as children, we experience it, the world is full and with a lot of promise. And as we get older, the world becomes smaller and more compact. But that is to me, the most important thing is to make your conscious efforts focus on things that you want, that will make you feel better, that would help you help others. And that energy to do that is spiritual energy, is, if you like, psychic energy. It's the energy that's transcendent. It's what inspires you. You need this energy for doing things like that, making a change, doing something different, achieving some goal. So that to me is the most critical element of this engagement that we're in trying to come to terms with what is it that we can accomplish in our life, and how does spirituality play a role? Is a role going to be one that's going to help you move forward, or just trying to expend that energy in dealing with the everyday demands on your time? Generally speaking, there's somebody here that comes and asks me a question. So well, neither Michelle nor Louise are here. So I'm going to play the role that they would, and kind of, and because I was talking for a while and I needed a break. So um, does anybody have any kind of reaction to this? How they feel about this notion of having spiritual energy is different from emotional or intellectual or physical energy? Or what you want versus what you don't want? Where we're speaking about reclaiming our spiritual independence. So the essence of the discussion is that our everyday life is full of a lot of demands, some of them not so great, not enjoyable. And we spend a lot of our physical, intellectual, emotional, but also our spiritual energy in dealing with these things. And if we keep spending all the energy on those things, when time comes that we need that energy for something for ourselves, for changing, for doing something that really is important to us, we don't have it. It's with all these people and all these situations that we deal with that are consuming. Well, the term is they're consuming your soul. They're soul crushing. These are all terms that are actually terms that are used in psychology and even in just regular uh, normal everyday lexicon. These are soul crushing activities. The term is really appropriate. I mean, they are. So how do we stop that from happening to yourself? Having these soul crushing activities impact us. And the point that I was making is that when you're dealing with everyday life, you have to deal with acceptance. Things are what they are, not what you want them to be, but what they are. And as long as you begin to look at it in that way, then you're not investing emotional energy. I mean, you're investing in spiritual energy in something that is not going to be productive for you. You're just dealing with something. It's an obligation. You have to do it, but it's not providing you with any kind of reward. And you want to invest those energies in something that gives you rewards. Eric.
So we do have a microphone. If I understood right, you would be open to comments or
Yes.
questions or kind of responses to anything that's been said. So if you would identify, and you did a great job, that you would like to speak, I can give this to you. There are people who are listening who aren't in the room, so they'd like to hear what you have to say.
My struggle is in relationships that I have a lot of different friends, and someone came into my life recently that experienced like 3 losses in their life. And when you say about acceptance, I think I understand that it's unreasonable to have anyone change themselves. And I find myself really struggling with, I guess, the boundary of what I can expect them to do and what I need for myself. So I'm trying to work out that if they don't speak about things or offer something about their life, I'm not prompting, like, oh, how did that go? And that doesn't really seem to be my nature, because I think people generally do like to talk about something in their life. So that's where my struggle is.
In my experience, when someone wants to tell you something, short of you running away, there's nothing you can do to stop them. One of the things I experience all the time, I'm not quite sure why, because I don't think that socially I'm particularly, very outgoing. And I tend to kind of be subdued unless I'm making a presentation. And I'm sitting somewhere, and this includes not just, this includes BK events, and people come and tell me their life story. Now, I didn't ask anything. The subject was not something that was brought up. I was just being polite. And people feel obliged to tell you their life, whatever, their tragedy of the moment or their struggle and what have you. I'm assuming it's because they think I may be sympathetic. I'm not quite sure why. But that happens. So people will tell you what they want to tell you. When they're not telling you something, as long as you're being open, as long as that, then it's okay. You don't have to feel bad that you think they're holding something in. There may be a reason they're holding it in. It may be painful for them to talk about it. It may hurt. And it may not be the moment for it to happen. But you should not invest energy in thinking, well, there's something more I should do. There's something I need to do. I know exactly what this is about, because I have the same feeling very often about dealing with people with very bad problems. And I always feel, is there something else I could have done? Was there something else I should have done? You can only do what the circumstances permit you to do. To try to do more is an arrogance. To try to do more than what the situation permits you, it's an arrogance. It's not an arrogance that you're trying to be hard on someone, but it's an arrogance because we think we can do more than what we can do. We can only, and that's again acceptance. Accept the fact that that's what the limit of what your engagement is. You can't help that person anymore. You're limited. You have to accept that there is nothing more that you can do. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I felt like that often. I did. Could I have done something else? Could I have been? And that's all arrogance. That's an arrogance. It's very subtle, and it's wrapped in good intentions. But the reality is an arrogance, because we're limited creatures like everybody else. Our ability to deal with other people has to do with our whatever resources we have at the moment. Emotional, material, intellectual, psychological. There are limits to them. And so there's only a certain amount you can do. The rest is not really up to you. You have to accept the circumstances of that person's and your life at that moment. It doesn't have to be forever, but certainly at the moment, you have to look at that.
Thank you.
Anyone else with thought or comment or something on your mind? Tony's very open to hearing your life story right now. If, that seems.
I'm ready for this. I'm ready for it. As opposed to just sitting somewhere
Yeah.
and being approached.
Let me come back. Use the microphone. Very good.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I just have an observation. Back in 2014, I have someone very dear to me who did something that shocked me. And through a friend having a conversation, one of my friends told me, you need to accept the things the way they are. Acceptance is very important. So I do agree with that. Until that moment, the word acceptance was like, I knew about the word, but accepting the person and the situation was really important to me to move forward. So I very much agree with that, with the acceptance. And boundaries are very important to me, even within my family. I have boundaries with my best friends. There's so much that I keep a little bit of a wall. For me, it helps me. Some people do not have boundaries. And I think it's important to have boundaries. Just an observation. That's my personal, the way I see things.
The key to this is that you do this so that you have part of yourself back to do what you need to do. If you're consumed by the other person's issues, then a piece of you is going
That's right.
and to something that's not constructive. And that's really the important. That's why, and you want to do things that are going to make you feel better about yourself, that are going to make your life better. These are the things you want to invest your energies on. And those and that's not just physical energy or intellectual energy. You have to have some sort of inspiration often as to what you want to do. You have to be able to get your mind and your whole psyche focused on these things. And if you're distracted, then it's very difficult to really do it, because the important things in your life require a lot of effort. A relationship, love, love for a spouse, love for a child. All of these things are very demanding in terms of spiritual energy. To do them effectively, you have to have that. And if that energy is somewhere else, then you're going to have a difficult time achieving those things.
Thank you.
Difficult times. Watching to see hands, but two things I just want a little follow-up on you. I think you mentioned we build our own, make decisions and we build our own cage. Okay, and we kind of get trapped in that. Two-part question. How would we rebuild the cage if we wanted to do something different? And would it be possible to see that kind of building our life differently? Such as I'm quite happy that I have something around me to protect me from the sun these afternoons, okay? And I don't see it as a cage, but I see beneficial. So rather than a cage, could we build our own home or a nest or something that supports us rather than traps us? So your response and thoughts about what we're building, what we're creating, and how to change or how to see it in a different way.
That's actually very, very good, because I was talking about being kind of caged in with all these little things and then wanting to do great things and soaring, efforts. But that actually is what we need to focus on, because we're not all of us are going to become and do these fantastic accomplishments. And I think what we need to do, like Eric mentioned, is we need to take that cage and replace it with a series of things around us, series of habits, series of activities that are replace or counteract the things that are negative in our life. And I am a very great believer in habits and being a creature of habit. It is one of the great things about civilization is that you have a structure of society encourages this kind of situation, that to create a habit, create a routine. So the issue is create routines that are positive, that are good for you, that make you feel good. So you're not constantly focusing on the fact that you have to deal with this relative, or you have to deal with this person, or you have to go to this environment that you don't want to go to, perhaps a job or some kind of family situation. So you create alternative routines that help you kind of be able to function outside of that negative influence of the things that you have to do, things that you want to do. So routines, I always use the meditation and exercise example. I don't know anybody that actually likes to exercise. Okay, maybe there are some people like that, but I don't really. Exercise is a pain. You have to work at it. So, however, you do it because you like the way it makes you feel afterwards, right? You doing the exercise itself generally is boring unless you have a particularly brilliant trainer or something, or you're doing something in a very special place. But after you do it, you climb up the stairs better. You walk down the street with a brisker step. You feel better. So meditation, which is something that we obviously promote here, is very similar kind of exercise, except you're doing it with part of your body, a part of yourself, psyche, the soul. So you meditate, and what I tell people, you meditate, start doing 10 minutes a day, and just 10 minutes a day for 5 days. And I guarantee you, on the 6th day, if you don't do it, you'll miss it. Whatever you're doing on the 6th day, it's like exercise. On the 6th day, you'll miss it because you've developed a routine of something constructive and positive. And that's one of the things that we need to do. Develop things that make life more enjoyable, more rewarding for us, and get into routines. Meditation is one. Obviously, exercise is something that everybody understands. Doing things that are healthy for you, that are healthy for your body, and healthy for your mind. One of the things is you have to stop focusing on something that's happening that's negative, because that's consuming, that's consuming your energy. So you have to create something for yourself that's going to be positive, that's going to take you to a better place. So I use the meditation and exercise analogy. But there are many things that you can do. And like Eric is saying, you replace one set of conditions with another one that's positive. So you're not going to be writing War and Peace, or, getting the Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that. But you're going to be doing a bunch of things that are going to make your life more rewarding.
Agreeable.
Oh, yes. Anybody on Zoom wants to say anything?
I just did. I I went into chat, but I think I'll express myself, which will make it a little easier. This items that you've been talking about has been like chosen from above for me, because exactly what you're saying is what I've been living through. Like, in other words, having paying attention to the things that I dislike or that do not go along with my way of thinking. And they just keep coming back and, getting upset and back and forth. And just today, I made a decision of finding a new way out of this situation by engaging myself in different activities, trying to just go out and do things that I haven't been doing that will keep me occupied and will keep my mind away from what I cannot change. So I really, really appreciate what I've heard here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think the quality of what you do for yourself is really what we're trying to kind of focus on. Spiritual energy is what the point we're trying to get, to do something that's going to uplift you, that's going to make you understand yourself better, understand other people better, accept other people,
Acceptance, yes.
and most of all, and most difficult, is to accept yourself. I mean, that to me is the ultimate of this kind of energy, to accept yourself, because only through doing that can you actually do any change. If there are qualities in you that you yourself don't accept, then there's no way of you to change them. You say, I want to change them, but you aren't able to do it because at some point you're saying, I can't accept this. There's something about this is unacceptable. And that consumes the energy that you need to change. You have to say, this is what I am. And that, like I said, acceptance of the self, I suspect is probably the most difficult of all of these to do. And for that, you need a lot of psychic, a lot of spiritual energy. It's not just intellectual. You can't figure it out. You can't, work it. You have to kind of focus on it and use whatever makes life special, whatever makes something beautiful, whatever makes something for you that makes it true, whatever makes something, whatever sounds or looks or feels unique and special. These are the things that you want to use your energy to go towards, because that's what's going to make a change. When people go on vacation, they go to some beautiful place where they have this gorge and this lake and this beautiful forest and scenery. It is only at those moments, which are transcendent moments, that they can say, I have to change. I have to do something different. They spend a few days out in this particular area and they say, okay, what I've been doing that before has not been appropriate. That's kind of also another cliche, but it does have a basis. And there's those moments when you're transcendent, when you see something unique or you feel something unique. Those are the moments that you have what I consider the spiritual moments, where you're looking to change and be what you really want to be.
Okay, could I interrupt?
Sure.
So my point was, in other words, when you talk about the acceptance, the key of what you said to me that made all the sense was the part of the reality of the moment, understanding that what is there is there. It's not like an imagination or whatnot. What is happening in front of you with XYZ, with a person, with a situation, is real. And the thing is, you have a tendency like to go into your spiritual mode, into whichever mode, trying to change the unchangeable, because this is exactly what it is. So my point is that, and my point regarding what I've heard and the way I've been approaching the thing is that what you need to do, if a person, a family, or whoever has a mode of operandi, they do X, Y, Z in a certain way, and it affects you directly. And you approach it and you mention it and you try to change in it, and nothing happens. Then over and over and over again, you go back to, I can't accept this. This is no good. It's really, the point is that you pointed out that was great is this is what it is. What is happening that you see and you're not uh, feeling that it should be, you can't change it. Only the person, if they understand the situation, or you could try and change it by going in different directions. But I think the healthiest way is for you to, stop at a certain point and say, well, I'm going to do for self, which is the following. I am going to not be concerned totally in something that is repetitious and it's not being healthy to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a different approach, a different way of me behaving or doing what I have to do. That's what I was getting at.
No, that's exactly the point. Instead of focusing your energy on how this person's behavior and what they're doing, you focus your energy on yourself. And
Exactly.
hopefully you can change yourself to the point
Mhm.
where you can actually do something about this. But you're not going to change that person in that kind of
For
context.
sure.
So you use the energy, the spiritual energy, to kind of make yourself more understanding and accepting. And then maybe you can actually do something. But you're certainly not going to do anything focusing on what they're doing that's wrong and it's inappropriate and unacceptable. That's not going to happen. You need to change. You need to have a different perspective if you're going to make any impact at all in that situation. It's not a question of running away from people. It's a question of taking yourself to a place where you can actually function, and taking yourself away from a place where you're not functional because you're just
And
dealing with negativity.
Tony, would it be possible for you to guide us to take us to a place where we could be functioning on the spiritual level that you so well described?
Okay. We need to go into ourselves, to the absolute dead center of our being. And to recognize ourselves in that point of consciousness and energy. We need to draw back into ourselves, to the essence of what we are. Bright, luminous beings. With the energy and understanding of the extraordinarily sentient creatures we are. We need to settle into that consciousness, the uniqueness, speciality, and to feel all these qualities that we long to fill our life. Love, contentment, understanding, compassion, humility. These are all the qualities that are focused on this point that we are. We need to inhale that into our consciousness. And to recognize this is where our true life lies. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Brother Tony. Thank you all for participating and coming out. We will continue our Thursday nights, 6:30 meditation, 7 o'clock presentation. There'll be one next week, the week after that, week after that, week after that, and so on. So schedule yourselves. Hope you've enjoyed. And as you depart, there should be a little sweet. You got something for the mind and the soul. Now you get something for the body and a blessing card. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you, those on Zoom. And stay well. Om Shanti.